Hello, my name's Ian Curley from the European Restaurant in Melbourne, and today for chefmasterclasses.com I'm going to show you one of my favourite fish dishes, which is a roast John Dory with cauliflower and curry oil. So the first thing I'm going to do is going to be the cauliflower puree. Now these are going to be put on the plate at room temperature, so you don't really have to heat everything up for this. So it's a beautiful summery spring dish, and also that sits on the plate, just put on, and then we'll put around the outside of the cauliflower, the roasted cauliflower, some capers, some dehydrated grapes, which are just basically green grapes that have been dehydrated overnight. So it's just the husk of the grape, the fennel and orange confit, which is just fennel that's been stewed down in extra virgin olive oil for a couple of hours until it's nice and soft. Roast the John Dory in the pan, or pan fry the John Dory in the pan, and we're going to serve that with the citrus zest and a sautéed whitloaf, which has been braised down in a little bit of vegetable stock. From that, you get to that. And we surround the whole dish with curry oil, a little bit of watercress, and our friend the bataga. John Dory is one of my favourite fishes. Now you'll notice the two spots that are on either side of the dory. In French, and they say that in France, the dots are from St. Peter, who was in the boat with Jesus when he picked the fish out of the ocean. So all I do is I separate at the top piece, like that, and I run my knife around the outside, turning it around. And I get underneath the flesh, keep making sure my knife is next to the bone at all times. Like so, making sure there's no bone. And for this dish, we're going to use all three pieces. So you get a super, it's almost with the fingers of John Dory. So what we say, we clean it. We'll serve 1.5 portions for this fish dish, and you'll see that you could maybe put a little less fish on, but I prefer to have more fish than not enough. Now, before I start cooking, I'm going to dress the plate first, because this is not a dish where you need all your garnishes to be hot, so it's a good one for summer and spring. What we do is in the middle of the plate, I put a bit of the cauliflower puree, which has just been cauliflower that's been boiled in a bit of milk and then pureed with your hand blender. A little bit of roast cauliflower, which is the florets of the cauliflower, roasted in an oven. I sprinkle a few baby capers, because I love the taste of the sweetness of the roasted cauliflower and the salty. I think this is a beautiful combination. And it's not an Indian dish per se, but the cauliflower and the curry oil that we put and the citrus gives it a beautiful, fresh, almost Indian aromatic flavour. I use a few just dehydrated grapes and pine nuts. And right in the middle, I'm going to put about 1.5 spoons of my fennel and orange confit. You also don't need to worry too much about the dish being cold, because at room temperature, all of these flavours will work together. And also, cauliflower doesn't need to be overly hot to taste it. So you'll get a beautiful flavour of the cauliflower with it being at room temperature. So put your pan on, get a nice non-stick pan. It's very important that you use a non-stick pan for this. And what you want to do, season your fish, a little bit of pepper, a little bit of salt just before you cook it, and do both sides. And a nice liberal amount of good olive oil, extra virgin olive oil. Put your fish in, skin side down. When your fish is sizzling, I put in the nice braised whitloaf, and you're going to get this beautiful sweet texture of the fish being cooked. I usually put in 1 piece of whitloaf for each piece of fish. Because it's a very thin, firm-fleshed white fish, it's not going to take too long to cook. So I want to crisp up the skin of the fish pretty quickly. So don't be afraid to use a touch more oil, because the caramelisation of this is going to also help with the sweetness of the cauliflower. Turn it over like so. Don't be afraid of turning over your whitloff as well. Like that, so you get the caramelised whitloff. Any old zest of oranges, limes or lemons, we put that in there. So you get that beautiful, fresh, acidic taste through there. Now, again, you don't have to do that, but I love the actual flavour of it. Also, you can replace that with just a squeeze of lemon juice if you like. So a touch more oil. And what I tend to do is once I've turned that fish over, I turn the gas off. Once the fish is there, and I let that sit and absorb all those flavours, so that it's almost impossible to overcook the fish, and also you'll never be able to burn the fish from there. Okay, so to finish the dish, very simply, caramelised whitloff goes on the plate like so, and all I do is very carefully, I take out the dory from the pan, like so. And if you really want to, you can put a little bit of the citrus, like that. And I also like to put a little bit more of the capers, the pine nuts. And to finish, around the outside, I'll put my curry oil. So essentially all curry oil is for this dish is fresh turmeric or powdered turmeric, just mixed with a little bit of extra virgin olive oil and strained. So get the fresh turmeric, or if you want to use ground turmeric, mix it with a bit of extra virgin olive oil and then strain it through a fine strainer and you'll get curry oil. Beautiful flavour. So we're going to use a little bit of watercress. And to finish the dish, we're going to put on our old friend, the bataga, which is the smoked dried mullet roe that's been sun-dried out, and they actually make this in Queensland. So again, an old friend of ours, but beautiful flavour and texture, and tastes just wonderful. And here we have pan-fried John Dory with Indian flavours, and that is one of our all-time favourites at the European.